You are listening to the ReRACEables podcast. Hello and welcome back to the ReRACEables podcast. I am your host, Tom, joined tonight by my excellent crew, as always, Josh, Lizzie, and Nicole.
Hey.
Yeah.
The OG crew.
The OG crew is here, and we are on the pre-show for episode 6 of The Amazing Race season 33. And we thought for this week we'd do something a little bit different. So what we did is we each got assigned a team. And what we're going to do is try to represent that team at this stage of the race, what we know about them, what we've seen from them, what we think is going to happen with them through a song. So everybody's going to go, and I'm going to start off. I was given Team Kayla and Raquel, Team Purple. And for me, the song was between a couple. They are friends. And so I obviously thought about different songs involving friendships. I thought maybe Golden Girls theme song, but then I thought, they're too old. I thought maybe You've Got a Friend in Me, Woody and Buzz, but I thought, it just didn't feel right. And so I landed on the quintessential Friends song, the Friends theme song by the Rembrandts, I'll Be There For You.
Aww.
That's sweet.
I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too.
I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
There for me too.
Right. So I chose I'll Be There For You by the Rembrandts because many reasons. Number one, they're friends, and it's the Friends theme song. They are the Friends team. That was pretty easy to kind of make that connection. Number two, they are two leading ladies, and I think Friends, the show, and I think of it as much as I love Chandler and Ross and Joey, that show is driven by the female characters above and beyond. The Rachel, Monica, Phoebe, that was who drove the show. And I feel like these two girls kind of encapsulate little pieces of all three of them and kind of their different dynamics. They're funny, they're outgoing, they're a little hysterical, they're not afraid to laugh at each other. And they don't really get pissed at each other and hate each other. They kind of playfully poke at each other, but in the end, love and support each other as only the best friends can do. And I think lyrics like, no one could ever know me, no one could ever see me, seems you're the only one who knows what it's like to be me, someone to face the day with, make it through all the rest with, someone I'll always laugh with, even at my worst, I'm best with you. Yeah, I think that encapsulates the relationship of these two ladies on the race. They're experiencing this experience just as Monica and Rachel or Monica and Phoebe, or any combination of the two, experienced friendship and living in New York. These two are experiencing that on the race, and I love it, and I think it's perfect. Kudos to my Team Purple, Raquel and Kayla. I'll be there for you, and I will be there for them, cheering them on as they were my number one team, and I'm still rooting for them, number one. Nicole, you had Dusty and Ryan. What do you got?
All right, for Dusty and Ryan, they were my number one pick. And for Dusty and Ryan, I chose Break My Stride by Matthew Wilder. Let's play a little snippet for you.
Nothing gonna break my stride. Nobody gonna slow me down.
Oh no! Perfect song. Come on. They have a perfect stride going. Not even COVID could break their stride.
Well done.
The road behind was rocky, but now you're feeling cocky.
But now you're feeling cocky.
And the girls mentioned that they might be getting a little cocky, but I think they have every right to be.
Absolutely.
No one can touch them.
Mm-hmm.
So, perfect song for them.
Well done, Nicole.
Thank you.
Lizzie, you had Lulu and Lala. Take it away.
I did. I really was caught between a couple of songs, like you as well. But I ended up going with Best Friend, a song by Saweetie featuring Doja Cat. And I feel like I might be alone in this, but I was a little more artist driven as opposed to like lyrics driven. It's like the whole vibe of the song and the people singing it is kind of what I was going for. So I knew definitely I wanted like a power female duo singing the song.
Wow.
So the vibes through the roof. And I feel like we've seen on the show, Lulu and Lala have this journey of championing each other. They have been best friends their entire lives. They work together, they live together, they do everything together, and they are such big supporters of each other. They fight, yes, but at the end of it, they are there for each other and they're having a good time. They're having a good ass time. They laugh constantly. They're enjoying the things that they're doing. I feel like even when they're stressed, they're still having an amazing time. And that's kind of what this song is. It's like, that's my best friend. She's amazing. That's my best friend. She's amazing. And Saweetie and Doja Cat go back and forth saying that about each other. And that is the vibe that I was going for with this song.
Wow, 3 for 3, crushing this whole exercise. Josh, rounded out here. What do we got?
Yeah, I also went in artist vibe and maybe knock off some points for me, but I will say I unearthed a new artist that I had never heard of until now. Actually, Principal Akbar has an album.
He sure does.
And, it was released, and the album is called Focus on the Love, Volume 1. And so this song is Stand Up in Love, the remix. So I will say the song starts out a little slow like that, and then we drop the beat. So not only is this song written by Principal Akbar.
What can this guy not do? I mean, he's unbelievable.
Incredible, man. I also think that there's a sense of standing up for love and a sense of community, and the fact that the song starts a little bit slower, just like they did in the race, but then it picks up and it shows the love that they really have and that they are really trying to show America and change some hearts and change some minds. And I really think you should give this song a listen. Give this whole album a listen. You listen to like rap albums and it's about like relationships and like grinding through the city, and he's like, we're not making enough money at our school. I've been trying to make people graduate. Like, of course, Principal Akbar has a rap album about literally just doing what he does.
No, I posted it the other day. As an educator, he's an inspiration. The guy is doing incredible things, and he's a superhero. He really is, and I'm sure he is that for a lot of kids at Westside High School, and it's abundantly clear that that's the case. The guy can pretty much do anything, as well as not open his mouth because he's, as he said, chopped liver now because Sherry did the bungee jump. Let's go to Jeremy, who's not here, but we, of course, in Jeremy's style, he met the bill. He sent it in, so let's play his pre-recorded video.
So what song is Kim and Penn? I chose Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Video and song for Kim and Penn. Ain't No Mountain High Enough. I think there really is no mountain high enough for Kim and Penn. They really are a pretty spectacular team. The last team we'll round this out, we'll close the pre-show with, is none other than Arun and Natalia. And since there's 5 of us and 6 teams remaining, I threw it out to everybody to kind of come up with
I came up with Shut Up and Dance With Me. I feel like that's something that Natalia would say to her father in a future challenge, given his singing skills during the Donald Where's Your Trousers performance.
Fiasco. Yeah.
That big finale of, you know,
Where's your trousers?
Yeah, so that's the song that I came up with.
And I just put Donald Where's Your Trousers. I thought that was the most perfect song to encapsulate everything of them. Runa and Natalia, where the hell are your trousers when you're on the road trying to navigate? Like, get it together or you're going to be out. And you already have, what, they're on their 3rd or 4th life in the race. So
I know.
I was afraid that I would fall.
Because he didn't have on his trousers. They haven't had trousers on this whole damn time.
I mean, is it fair, like we saw in the preview for this week, would it be fair if Anthony and Spencer went down and Arun and Natalie were still in the race? How do you feel about that?
You mean Dusty and Ryan?
Dusty and Ryan. Oh gosh, Anthony and Spencer, I'm sorry.
They're out.
Yeah.
They're long gone. My fault.
I would feel extremely angry and frustrated. It's like the Patriots going 16-0, and then all of a sudden you just lose in this one game to the freaking Giants. Or if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you have the greatest game ever and you beat the hell out of in a back and forth duel with the Bills, and then you go and play the what we all thought were the shitty Bengals, and boop, you're out. And
Too
it's
soon to be
I
talking.
know, but
I'm still
that's
mourning.
I feel like that's what's that if Dusty and Ryan were out, let's say this at the end of this leg, and Arun and Natalia snake by Bengals style. Shout out to Joe Burrow, but
I don't think it's gonna happen though. I think it's a classic case of editing to try to make it look like there's more drama ahead to entice people to watch the next episode.
But Dusty and Ryan having this little hiccup maybe is like a non-first place, which is rare for them, aka Brady style. But that's how we kind of see it. How do you guys see it?
I think that it's one of those things where it's like, they get a flat tire and then they get it back and then they race past all the teams who have consistently been slow, and then they sit on their throne of first place like they have this whole entire time, But we'll see. Anything's possible.
Nothing's gonna break their stride, okay?
We'll leave it on that. Well said. We'll be back after the episode. Stay with us. This commercial break is brought to you in part by tribalcouncilblog.com. Be sure to visit all of our social media websites and give us a like or a follow or a subscribe. And don't forget to outlike, outcomment, and outshare the rest. Thanks for all your support. Okay, welcome back to the ReRACEables podcast. We have just viewed episode 6, and let's start here. My first question: is this the best episode yet this season? Help.
I think so.
My stomach was turning. I was
Mhm.
very nervous. It
I
was
agree.
more than just editing, as I predicted, with Dusty and Ryan possibly getting out. But my boys, they worked it out. Actually, when I was picking a song for them, I was between this, the Break My Stride, and another one. And I was like, nah, you know what? They didn't really have to be this so much. This episode, this song fit. It was Warrior by, who's it by?
Scandal.
Scandal. Okay.
I am the warrior.
When those men entered the match, they entered like warriors. It fit.
David Goggins.
Yeah.
Warriors.
Yeah.
This was the best episode, and here's why. Going back to my probably overdoing it, but Brady reference, the fact that when faced with adversity in any competition, there's two types of people, right? There's people who fumble and crumble, and then there's people who rise to the occasion, who make hard decisions, who stick to that hard decision, find any room for an ability to get ahead, to catch up, to fight through. And that's what they did. That's what Tom Brady does. That's what the Tom Brady of this season, Dusty and Ryan, did. They made a decision. They battled through the adversity of it, used their strengths, and they got back on the horse, and they did what they had to do, which was not just beat one team, but that's all they had to do, but they passed several teams. And they deserved that flex at the end of the episode. And because of that whole storyline, it was the best episode by a lot. And I don't think it was close. And we all want to see the top team go down. And we could feel that when they showed up at the roadblock, it was like the Grim Reaper had showed up and those other teams' faces dropped and they knew they were totally screwed. And credit to those guys. I was super impressed. They battled through adversity. And if this is their major hiccup, it's championship future for them.
And they said it was our best performance yet because they were under pressure. Ryan flew down that mountain.
Impressive.
Flew down. He would not have gone that fast if they were still in first place.
I just don't think he flew down the mountain. I mean, he was against Arun and Akbar. I mean, but I do think this was the best episode yet. Not because of them, but I actually think that each one of these teams are so incredibly likable. It makes me not want any one of them to go home. And I think that that's a power to the producers and casting and the editing doesn't really have to do much because I'm on edge. I don't want to see any of they feel like my friends now. I don't want to see any of my friends go home, and I'm going to be sad when that happens. and they've got me on every single team. There's no team that I'm rooting for to like take it to the end, and there's no team that I want to go home.
They're their own TV. Having radio hosts and former, newscasters and now internet personalities, like it helps to have those like very public faces as your teams because they know how to be in front of a camera. That's part of why they're fun to watch. But that's good casting, I guess. But Dusty and Ryan, who was it? It was Dusty, like floating around to all the little other cheese making stations. That's entertaining to watch because you're like, ooh, they've turned the fire up underneath them. Are they going to get it or are they not? And we haven't seen that uncertainty with them before. And so something that's out of the ordinary for some of these teams, like seeing Arun and Natalia do really well and come in not last, that made good TV because we're like, oh, all we know them as is like the ones that come in last or bringing up the rear. So it was exciting to see them do well and to see them just like skate through and see them be as strong of a team as I feel like we all know that they could be or that we predicted that they would be. So I don't know, just like letting the teams be who they are and shine through. Like you don't have to have good editing, and they just are who they are. And this episode really kind of got to show that in a way that we haven't really seen so far, I feel like.
You also don't need good editing when they all started 15 minutes apart.
Yes, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Very fair.
That's true.
I still like the David and Goliath kind of angle of it. I agree. I do like these teams. I do feel vested in each of them at this point, especially with the whole 19-month break. Having that target, that carrot in front of everyone, that is Dusty and Ryan, makes the show more compelling, right? The NFL is better with Tom Brady when he was on the Patriots or even the last 2 years with the Bucks. Or Patrick Mahomes, like having those teams that are targeted and at the front of the pack that everybody's got to compare themselves to, work to beat. And if they have to team up to try to take them down, then that's what you got to do. Without that, I think without Dusty and Ryan at this point, it would be a very, very different feel to this season.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would be more like season 32?
Yeah.
Where they were like all best friends, kind of like helping each other to the very end. That was the big vibe where it was like the one big family.
At the end, you'd have Josh saying, well, was season 32 good? Or was season 33 good?
And it
Josh would
wasn't.
say, and it wasn't, right. So there you go. Let's move on to the detour. Say Cheese versus Mule Please. Say Cheese was the producing 3 baskets of cheese from milk all the way to it curdling to cheese. Mule Please was strapping a canister to a mule. You had to set up the straps using the mule that was modeled and tied to the rock, which was kind of funny, and bring that mule down a trail to get your next clue. As always, what was the easier choice? What was the better choice? What would you have done?
I think I would have chosen cheese because it just seemed easier. And I think most teams thought it seemed easier. I think mules get a bad rep though. There's a popular simile, stubborn as a mule. You'd think a mule would be stubborn and hard to work with. Those mules were great. They were so compliant. They weren't kicking. They weren't doing anything. They were very, very nice.
So you think there's a chance for compliant as a mule to be a saying?
Yes.
Okay, new simile, hot off the press. Lizzie?
I also think that there is something to be said about people who are comfortable with animals and people who are comfortable interacting with animals. And so if you are one of those people, I feel like I would be more inclined to go the mule route because I like animals and I feel like I have a calmness about me. It's all about energy and whatever with them. And so I feel like that's what I would have done. And I feel like we saw that was like the way faster route to go.
I'm always about predictability. I think that in the end, if you see both challenges, the mules were quicker, but you didn't know what you were going to get with those mules. I have flashbacks of those teams having to herd the goats. Oh my goodness, no way am I touching that animal. I'm going to do exactly what I can calculate and get that pot to a certain temperature.
I think it was pretty clear that Akbar and Sherry, Arun and Natalia, Lulu and Lala, those teams that aren't depending on their physicality, that went to the cheese, this fit right into their wheelhouse. control what we control, sit here, focus on one task, something that we can do while seated, really played into them catching up and passing Dusty and Ryan, who really revealed a lot. Impatience as far as Dusty. Eventually they made the switch. Dusty and Ryan really were struggling. Dusty's hyperactive, running back and forth, looks like a pinball machine, really revealing himself. Then you have on the other side, you have Ryan, who I felt like went into prison mode. I'm here, I'm in this mode, I'm stirring this thing, I'm super patient, I'm super low key, going with the flow, trying to calm him down and just be present in that area. I just felt like there was such a contrast there. But
that's why they're a good team, because they balance each other out.
absolutely.
And whatever Dusty would have said, Ryan would have just said, all right, then let's go.
Yeah.
He wasn't arguing. It was just like, what do you want to do? Okay, let's do that.
Let's talk about the switch. After
They
4
waited.
minutes, they decide to switch from the say cheese to the mule please. They've been passed by everyone at that point. They abandon ship and they go.
They waited way too long. They had the idea to switch like 10 minutes into the thing. They should have done that. And when that happened, I turned over to Josh and I was like, do you remember in the flag challenge when Dusty wanted to switch?
Mhm.
And then Ryan talked him into staying and committing because they were like halfway through the process. And then they did, and they stuck with it, and then they finished it. I was like, I feel like this is going to be a recurring thing. Like, if it's not automatically easy, Dusty's going to want to do something else.
But he was right.
In this case, yes, he was right. But I don't know. It says a lot about his character to like, I feel like things come so easily for him when he's not automatically good at something. He's going to be like, well, we should go do the other thing because that'll be much easier and we'll fly through it. There's a little bit of unrest. Fascinating for a team that is doing so well to see the cracks in their armor.
And every other team saw it.
They were happy to see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And their strengths were revealed in not being out of control, not being hyperactive, not being wishy-washy, flip-floppy, and sticking to, okay, this is our strength. We're better cooks than they are, like Akbar and Sherry did. Let me get your answer to this. What circumstances do you have to have in order to switch?
I guess my question with them switching is, why did they choose cheese in the first place? They're the physical team, not the smart team. Why? I just don't even get it at all. They were made for the physical challenge, and they're more physically capable than I think any other team there. Of course, they should have switched.
I bet it was the misconception of mules.
However, I will say that it is difficult to switch that late. Like that is a really, really scary decision to make. You don't know what it is. Even though you see people passing you, you have no idea what the trick is. And if you're not smart enough to curd cheese, are you going to be smart enough to get a Hasselback on a,
What?
I don't know, a thing on a donkey? I don't know if I have a clear circumstance. I think it's a poor game decision from the start.
I feel like it's when you finally get, because you can read the clue and everything looks good on paper, right? But when you actually get to the scenario and you see what's right in front of you, the time to decide if you're going to switch is when you have reality right in front of your
That's the
face
answer.
and you're no longer reading the thing on
Yeah.
paper. You're like, oh, that's how far a mile is that we have to swim and go get a thing. You know what I mean? It's like, you can read that and it sounds like you can maybe do it, but then you get there and you're like, oh my God, this isn't what I thought it was at all. It's when you have it right in front of your face finally and you can see what it is. That's when you make the decision. Not like, well, let's try it for half an hour and then see if we like it. It's like, you don't have the time to do that.
I think the sitting around, the waiting was the key that should have sparked them to say, whoa, we got to wait for this to get the temperature. And we're standing in one place. Look at us. We don't stand in one place.
Yes.
I think that there's validity to trying it. I think there was a challenge at some point where they had to like jump off a diving board and grab something after a long jump, and no team could actually do it.
On
And
another season?
yeah, on another season.
Okay.
And there was a time that they ran once and couldn't get it, and they said, great, I'm done, and moved on to the next one. And I think that that's the time to move, when you realize, or like when you question yourself that you can't actually do it.
Yeah, your focus
remember that.
breaks down
Yeah.
and you just, it's just a disaster. You're just on the other side of really bad situation at that point.
Yeah, and like looking at that and applying it to what happened tonight, yeah, they should, as soon as they started questioning, is this taking too long? Are we not figuring it out? Did we not do it right? Leave. Goodbye. Go to the next one. Because your lack of confidence is not going to get you over the hump.
And it's interesting you say that, Tom, about like specifically Dusty and Ryan, like sitting there is not good for them. Sitting and waiting is not something that they are comfortable doing. So it's so interesting that like a team like Sherry and Akbar are like, they started the episode being like slow and steady wins the race.
Yep.
This was the detour for them.
Yep.
This is exactly what they needed to be doing. And that's why they were good at it. They were like, we are in our comfort zone. We know we're going to be good at this. And then they were. So it's interesting that, yeah, Dusty and Ryan made the wrong call right off the bat for that. I guess it didn't end up mattering, but.
No, and it didn't, because comes to the roadblock, which was Who Wants to Make a Splash, where they have a 1.5 mile slip and slide down a river with a guide. There's hiking involved, uphill it seemed. A couple things happened. Number one, the little alliance we see from Raquel and Kayla and Lulu and Lala gets broken when Raquel, despite Lulu waiting for her, Raquel at the very end doesn't wait for Lulu and just kind of darts ahead. And the second thing is Akbar finally gets to a roadblock. There's a physical component to it that for him is just really hard. What did he say? It was hilarious, but he felt bad. Like, he's like, I'm already 275. I'm 375 with that wetsuit on. The guy's got a size 16 shoe, right? He's a big man. He's got to be at least 6'5". And if he's 275 pounds with this wetsuit, he's right. He's probably over 300 pounds. And for him to be walking uphill is insanely hard. And ultimately that leads to Arun passing him. And eventually Ryan, Superman, getting on his horse and basically sprinting from the detour all the way past him.
Arun looked like a movie star doing this.
He had his sunglasses on the entire episode, like a straight G. And the only time he took it off is when he got to the mat and he made direct eye contact with Phil. It was perfect. It was so good.
Great. It was pretty great.
Well, that's how you own the moment, right? You pass Akbar on the roadblock. You're not going home. You didn't have to drive anywhere. You didn't have to feel failure, and boom.
I think he also needed to up his cool factor after the Donald Leisure Cruiser's performance.
Gosh. Never forget.
So I really like the roadblock, though, going back. I thought it looked like the most fun roadblock you could ever want. Although I do like the bungee jumping. I think I like this maybe a little bit better because it lasts a little bit longer.
You would have done it out of us too. You always ask who would have done it. That would have, without a doubt, been you.
You see the hill and you're hiking, but combine that with the sliding and all that, I think that would have been a better turnout for us and result. Otherwise, I would have probably been Sherry standing there as I watched everybody pass us on that.
Nasty.
Yeah, it's the truth. That's what would have happened. I definitely wouldn't have handled it as well as Sherry did. Credit to her. Sherry really handled that pretty damn great. You guys can laugh. It's okay. You can unmute. No, but that's us knowing our strengths and our weaknesses. And if we're standing there at the bottom of the hill,
it's one person.
No, it would have been an easy one for us to make the decision. What about you guys?
I think Josh and I decided that I think I probably would have done it. I love swimming. I love nature. I love hiking. All of this rolled into one seemed like so much fun. But yeah, so I think it probably would have been me. I'm very comfortable in the water. I think our dynamic is that generally speaking, I think I would do like water and swimming challenges, and Josh would do the food stuff.
The mental, the putting together.
Or yeah, like puzzle stuff.
And the heavy lifting and stuff. Dom was like, well, I would do this because you're terrible. It's like, and then you kept saying we. You're like, yeah, we decided. And Nicole's sitting there like,
Hey, there'll come a time when she will take the roadblock because I would have been terrible at it also. That is undoubtedly true.
You let us know when that is, Tom.
That's very
Yeah.
Oh, we'll ding it.
That's right.
We'll ding it. You bet your fanny. Obviously, the big story of the roadblock in the end is Dusty and Ryan show up, the Grim Reapers. You just see the eyeballs all go to them. Oh, they're here. Oh, they're here. The people know that they're in trouble. They know that the physical specimens are going to run up this mountain and probably pass them, which they do, which eventually comes to the fifth and final part of the episode, which was the kayak upstream to the pit stop. I like that you had to blow up the kayak. You had to follow the clues. You had to read the clue. Saw a little hiccup by Lulu and Lala on that. And we do learn a little bit more about Dusty and his dad in this kind of transition to the kayak, which was a really nice moment. Again, kind of going back to the whole COVID and the delay gives us a new kind of perspective for everybody running the race. And they all have their different kind of motivations because their life is in a different place at that point. And I thought that was a really nice moment.
I was surprised at how many people were saying that they've never kayaked to kayak before. I mean, I guess I was kind of raised around it. You paddle and then you go.
It is very difficult. I have kayaked before. Very difficult. It's very difficult to like go forward.
Plus you're going upstream. Plus you just inflated it. Plus you just experienced the hiking and all that. Plus you're wet. Plus you have sneakers that are wet. Plus you had to drag the thing up that little slope that they had to get up there, where it looked like they had to take the kayak from one place and drag it uphill also. Plus you're trying not to come in last. You're trying to make up time, but you suck at it. You have no experience, like 3 or 4 of the teams talked about. Plus you're pissed that you got passed on the
All right.
Kim and Penn running away. We haven't really talked about them. They kind of ran their own leg of the race, it seemed, this leg. They win $5,000 each, which is I think a pretty awesome purse to win. That's $10,000. Nice little trip. And we learned that Kim and Penn are not having, Kim talks about not having control out, and she's out of her comfort zone. And that kind of flashes back to the beginning of the episode where they are boarding the charter flight and they don't know where they're going. They're just getting on this private jet, but yet they're filled with this uncertainty.
Yeah, I think it's fun that she has like an alternate personality for this being comfortable with the unknown, and like I can kind of see her starting to enjoy it a little bit, I think. And I think that in episodes to come, we'll see that a little bit more, but she's not living her daily life. She's not with her kids. And so I would hope that The Amazing Race teaches you to kind of live in the moment, because you're in so many amazing places. And I think that she's finally kind of getting to the point where she's like, wow, this is awesome. I need to kind of take this in. So I applaud her for making an effort and really putting herself out there to do that.
The theme of this episode was adversity, right? And how do you deal with that? For Akbar and Sherry, they had one type of adversity. Dusty and Ryan had a different type, and they each handle it different ways. And I think Kim's adversity is not being in control and having to consciously say to herself and say to Penn and back and forth that let's try to enjoy this. Let's look out the window when we can. Let's try to actually be in this moment, understanding, like you said, Lizzie, that they're not Kim the mom. They're Kim and Penn, the Amazing Race team, and that's a very different thing. And that is a very different type of adversity, but I enjoyed seeing those different kind of pieces of adversity in this episode. Last thing, and we'll close out on this. We have the big warrior shirt ripping off screams from Dusty and Ryan, and rightfully so. They came into the end like the ultimate warrior and screaming, and it was a lot of energy. It was great. But at that very moment, we have the juxtaposition of Kayla and Raquel rolling their eyes.
Loved it.
Pointing out to the local guy.
Loved it.
Like whoever that guy was. They definitely wanted to just take their shirts off.
Yeah, loved it. They're just, they're very likable girls. Like, I want to be their best friends. They're great.
They're like Rachel and Monica and Phoebe, right? Like kind of like somebody said earlier in the episode.
Hey, everyone.
Yes. I thought it was very humbling of them to kind of roll their eyes at them, because I feel like Dusty and Ryan take themselves like maybe a little bit seriously. I think maybe a little bit. And so
Yeah.
Kayla and Raquel to be like, okay, you're stripping in the middle of this island off of France, and the only people here are 6 people that have been allowed to be. Do you know what I mean? It's like, check yourself. And so I appreciate that they are the voice of reason, standing over there, like rolling their eyes and like fake ripping off their life jackets. It's like somebody's got to do it. So Kayla and Raquel are going to be the ones to do it, as they should.
It's amazing in that moment, their energy versus Kayla and Raquel's energy. It was a good way to end the episode, kind of just not knowing how to feel in that time.
I have a thought, and that is, this is oversimplification, but if you look at the race as challenges and getting to the challenges / getting to the pit stop, right? So there's the travel, and then there's the challenge. When we have the full race, Dusty and Ryan have done really well. We've seen that in every episode so far. This challenge, this episode only had challenges. They had a plane that brought them there. They had a driver that picked them up. They had a driver who would drive them in between places. Everything.
Why Rune and Natalia did so well this leg.
That's exactly my point. They didn't have a chance to get lost. And this is something that I brought up a few weeks ago, in that I actually think that Arun and Natalia are a pretty strong team when they don't have to travel to each location, right? And so we think about that, and that's where Dusty and Ryan really succeed. But they haven't been able to do that in this episode. So I'm really interested to see what the rest of the season's going to play out. Is it going to be more like last episode where you have to navigate yourself? Or is it going to be more like this episode where you get navigated for you and you have to compete in challenges? So I'm eager to see how it goes.
And also now with Akbar and Sherry being officially eliminated, no non-elimination, they're out in 6th place. There's no team for them to physically pass or know, okay, if it comes down to it. Because when they were going to the switch and running down with the mule and finally getting there, they were probably thinking, all right, I can catch Akbar. Without Akbar and his limitations with his size 16 sneakers and wetsuit and all that, it's going to be a harder race for Dusty and Ryan if they run into some sort of hiccup again. Best episode yet. We are excited to be continuing to cover it. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks Josh. Thanks Lizzie. Thanks Nicole. Thanks Jeremy via video.
Thank you, Tillamook.
We will be back.
Thank you, Tillamook Ice Cream, for sponsoring this video.
Yeah, hopefully they'll become our sponsor. We had one other failed attempt, but at getting a sponsor, but we're still looking. We'll be back next week to discuss episode 7. I believe there's only 2 more episodes left of this season, folks. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's only 2 more episodes left. We might be looking at
That can't be right.
I think we have
No way.
We're at 5. If we have an elimination next time, we're at 4. And we have a 2-hour episode where we might go to 3 and then a final sprint to the finish. That would be my prediction. They're not going to stretch it out to 13 episodes. We know that. So gonna have to check our local listings, but I think we only have 2 episodes left. So really been enjoying this season. Thanks everyone for being here. We'll be back next week. And also check out tomorrow, there'll be another podcast that I'll be recording with a special guest from a previous season to talk about season 33 and their thoughts so far. So look out for that later this week. Thanks for being with us. The blog has spoken. See you next time.